NFL Fantasy Podcast, now 49 days away from the NFL kickoff. Things are heating up. We're all reading the usual gossip. Who's injured, who's sleeping with who's in good shape, who's in for net state. It's all building up to the first Sunday Red Zone with Scott Hansen. Pre-season's all about trying something a little bit different, and this evening I'm in the quarterback role while our normal host Kieran is slotting in nicely into a wide receiver for me tonight. Kieran, how the devil are you?
I'm alright, mate. What time do you call this?
Oh, let's not talk about
that. If I'm being really honest, man, I'm a bit nervous tonight. You in the hot seat making your debut, and the guy we've got over there is our guest. This is a recipe for disaster.
But
in a good way. But in a good way.
It'll be fine. Would you give a toddler the keys to your car?
Absolutely not.
Are you all good apart from that?
Doing well. Finally, we get a wee bit of news. It's kind of like we were waiting all week for it, and like buses, it all comes at once. We've had a few bits and bobs today, and we've got a wee decent theme coming tonight, so I think we're in for a good show.
100%. What an addition we've got to the roster tonight. He's quick, strong, athletic, and handsome. It's the fish, Stephen Pollock. Pollock, how are you, my friend?
I'm good, boys. I'm good. Delighted to join you eventually. Week 3, I made it.
Good. Well, I'm in a wealthy company here, so we'll start off on this topic. Kyler Murray, new contract, 5-year, $230.5 million contract extension with $160 million guaranteed. Thoughts on that, guys?
I think he's going to come close to my wages. No, absolutely not. Imagine getting dealt that type of money. It's unbelievable. In the NFL, it's no secret that your quarterback's your main man. Once you get your franchise quarterback, you have got to do everything it takes to keep a hold of him. And the Arizona Cardinals have really went out their way to nail him down. And he's one in a million. He's a modern quarterback where his agility kind of takes him out the pocket. He's got plenty in the legs. He's got a great throw. Maybe less weapons round about him this year. But for 5 years, the Arizona Cardinals are in good hands.
Paul, what do you think? You think it's a good investment, sound investment for them?
It's a lot of guaranteed money for a midget. But if I'm honest, yeah, I do. I think the first half of the NFL season last year, I think he was definitely up there, one of the best quarterbacks in the league. I think he's earned it. I think he got into the wildcard round last year. So, yeah, I definitely think it's a good investment. It's been a long time coming, so, yeah.
It's like he's full on entertainment, isn't he? But I don't know what it is. I think it was a character from the Flintstones back in the day that had it's his helmet is just huge. And I don't know if it's remember the cheat that you used to get? Was it in FIFA? Or was it Raw's War? You can make their head massive and they look lightning quick. That's what it's kind of like watching. But it's just, he's so entertaining. Just the way he gets about the field and makes plays out of nothing, even scrambling. He's very, very good at that. So, yeah, definitely happy to see him at the Cardinals for what looks like the next 5 years.
And let's kind of transition into your team, Pollock. You've been a Cleveland Browns fan all your days. Now, tell me, young guy, for the last, for years, they've not really done anything. We're always interested to hear the stories behind why people support teams, because I think it is always interesting. There's always a wee bit of randomness usually about it. What made you support the Browns?
Well, actually, I only started watching the NFL just over 4 years ago. I went over to my friend Adam's house for Super Bowl 52. That was the night that the Eagles and Nick Foles, the night they upset Tom Brady, the famous Philly special, etc. But after that night, I really started to take an interest. I was scrolling through Sky Sports one day, and it was their on-demand section. It was the Hard Knocks. I didn't know anything about it. I just clicked it. Was obviously trying to find my feet in terms of the NFL, and it was the Browns series. It was they were the feature, and Baker Mayfield had just been selected by them as number 1 pick. And something about the whole underdog story of the Browns just really enticed me. Myles Garrett was just coming through. They just drafted Nick Chubb. It was as if they were turning a page, and I thought to myself, this is the team I'm going to support. So I was a dog pound member from then on.
I like how you said there you knew nothing about it, and it kind of led you into supporting the Browns.
So true. Wish I hadn't.
Nah. Do you got any plans to make it out to Cleveland?
No idea how to get there, mate. But hopefully one day, my dream is to watch the Browns at Raiders at the Allegiant Stadium in Las Vegas. I think that would be incredible. I know you just went, Kieran. What was it like?
Unbelievable. I've been to a few stadiums in my time. I've been lucky enough to visit the Bears Soldier Field. I've been lucky enough to visit MetLife, but honestly, nothing comes close to that. You talk about a modern arena, and it is kitted out with everything. We even got to go into the owner's box. And he's basically got a sort of iPad sits right on the 50-yard line. He's got an iPad where he can get in touch with the general manager during the game. And imagine that transversing into what we call like soccer over here. Imagine that happening in our game. I don't think we're far away from it, but stuff like that, everything was just to the highest standard, as you could imagine with a stadium like that. And yeah, like you say, pipe dream to watch a game in there. Super Bowl 2025 is there, am I right in saying that?
Do you know what I think's funny as well, that most like kind of European stadiums now are it seems as if like Americans have been doing it for years. See even you're saying the Soldier Field, an old stadium, but when you go into it, it's miles ahead of what's in Europe. And
Yeah,
it seems as if stadiums like Tottenham Hotspur, I've not been to it personally, but I've kind of heard about it. I know they're gearing up obviously for NFL games, but
Yeah.
everything is now, it's like they look at American stadiums as a benchmark, don't they?
yeah, absolutely. I think a lot of the designs come from the same folk, but nah, the Allegiant Stadium, hands down, the best I've ever seen in all my life. I don't even know if I'll see better. Don't know. The folk do say the SoFi is right up there, but nah, the Allegiant for me is just unbelievable.
Yeah. Well, can I go on to that in future episodes? We're kind of getting off topic. We'll get back onto the Browns. Let's address the elephant in the room, Deshaun Watson. How do you see that saga playing out, Pollock?
Do you know, I've always been one of his biggest fans. Actually, if you check receipts, even from our WhatsApp group from years ago, he was actually the first quarterback I took in your first draft. I just think he's way underrated. I think he's unbelievable at the position. But when he signed for the Browns, similar to yours, I was a bit sceptical. $230 million guaranteed, considering Kyler Murray only just got 160. So it is definitely an elephant in the room. There's still no resolution. I think they're talking about this week, possibly, that it could be getting decided. I've heard something between 2 and 8 games. Trying to get into the actual nitty gritty of what's actually went on and what's been done is probably not for me to comment, but
Yep.
He's definitely an extremely talented quarterback, and I think the future's bright for the Browns. It just depends on if he is found guilty of anything. Does that then change it moving forward? Not too sure, but in terms of just him as a quarterback, his abilities are there for all to see.
It's got to be interesting to see inside the training camp, inside pre-season. How do you plan when you don't know exactly where your quarterback's going to be? It's different when you've got maybe a running back, a wide receiver or something's going to be. Then obviously it's a wee bit in doubt, but it's when you're quarterback, when it's a leader, when you're really unknown about what his suspension is going to be. How's your kind of planning going? Keelan, what do you think? How do you see it going? Who do you see playing at quarterback for start? Have you followed it kind of in any detail?
I have been following it. I honestly can't believe that the Browns went with this deal from where the Browns were and taking in Baker Mayfield. And I know I touched on it in previous pods that they brought themselves back to the forefront. Playoffs last year, really done well. Like Pollock spoke about, the underdogs that have rose above. I just don't know. I don't know with Deshaun. I'm a strong believer in there's no smoke without fire.
Mm-hmm.
I think the league are going to come down hard on him. Previous times where guys haven't been convicted, they'll go with what they believe, and I wouldn't be surprised if we didn't see him this season. But when we're talking about fantasy football, well, there's no morals in our league.
Nah,
Completely unethical.
100% not.
I would agree with you, Kieran. I would agree with you, yeah.
Are you going to look down on me if I take him in later rounds?
100%
Absolutely not.
Use are out of offer.
If he's on that list, he's fair game.
You're banging it off of the theories.
Nah,
I do agree with what you're saying though. I do think I think he'll be sharing reps just now with Jacoby Brissett in camp. I think that's 100% because I'm almost certain that it'll be Jacoby Brissett at quarterback for Browns in game one. That's just, I don't see any other way. I'm with you, Kieran. It could be anything from 2 games to a full season. Like it's the total unknown at the moment. It depends how hard they come down on him, but in the modern day world, I don't think it's going to be taken too lightly. But need to wait and see.
Kieran, you kind of touched on a good point. I think morals. I'm not going to give the Browns a sort of lecture on morals, because I think at this level, I think every team, every professional sports team, can be guilty of, playing a guy that's maybe not the most, stand-up citizen, and bend the rule, not bend the rules a wee bit, but you know what I mean. They'll do what's right for the business first and foremost. But for me, quarterback, you want that to be a leader. You want that to be the kind of squeaky clean guy, the leader in that sort of locker room, don't you?
Yeah, I think you look at the Browns as well, and you're saying you need that leader in there, and it's like, what's going on in camp? What are guys saying about it? What are they thinking about it? Are they practicing reps? You just don't know. It could be an absolute car crash of a season for the Browns, or depending on how this goes, it could work out for them. It could be all right. I mean, Amari Cooper coming in, excellent player. Still get Nick Chubb there. There's weapons all around them. In terms of their defence, Myles Garrett as well. I mean, the Browns are still a solid team. They're a good team with or without Deshaun Watson, albeit Jacoby Brissett isn't Deshaun Watson, and I don't think he's Baker Mayfield either, but he's got the offense there to facilitate round about him to make it another good season for the Browns. I wouldn't really write them off, but with the Deshaun Watson thing, it could send things off the rails.
Yeah, 100%. And Paul, just kind of going back to the fantasy football element, is there any, Kieran's maybe not mentioned, any fantasy relevant players in the Browns offense? Any sleepers we should kind of look out for?
I think Donovan Peoples-Jones could see a lot of targets with Jarvis Landry gone now, and obviously OBJ will not get into that saga, as I'm not his biggest fan anymore at all. But I think he could see a lot more targets. With Amari Cooper's obviously came in, but Darnell Johnson is behind probably Kareem Hunt and Nick Chubb in that sort of running back room, but he had a few games last year where he looked like he was going to break out. I seen stuff he was putting on Twitter the other day that this is his season, so he could be another one. But again, I think the man that starts at quarterback will have a lot to do with it, so we'll need to wait and see.
I know it's hard to judge, as you said, with quarterback, but what's your predictions? How's their season going to pan out?
I still, as Kieran said, I still think we'll be okay with Jacoby Brissett. He's a veteran. He's always came across as a good leader. Always remember when Andrew Luck retired, how well he spoke of him. So I think we'll be okay. I think we could still win some games. That's a really open division for me at the moment. The Bengals are good. I think the Steelers will still be good this year. The Ravens are coming back without all the injuries. So yeah, I think it's an open race in that division. But the Browns will still be in there, I think.
What about you, Kieran? Are you going to sit in the fence here like Pollock? Are you going to give us a prediction?
Like Pollock touched on there, it's a tough division. You look at the Bengals, I think they're only going to get stronger. A lot of people tipping T. Higgins to have his breakout season this year. Already get Jamar Chase there, friend of the pod on social medias, may I add. He's watching everything we do. And you look to the Ravens, without the injuries, they look like they could really, really make a mark this year. Who knows? I think they could go far, but really unlucky last year with injuries to Lamar Jackson. And you look at the Steelers as well, sneaky chance of catching third, I think, for the Browns in there, but I'm not holding out much hope. We're going to be looking at some sort of ban for Watson, and in that, it kind of takes the Browns down for me.
Yeah. Fair enough, lads. Right, let's move on from that, and we're going to have a bit of fun here. Now, Kieran's usually in the hot seat. So, Pollock, as our guest, we're going to have a wee bit of fun with it. We're going to have a game of Would You Rather. Now, it's just a few quick questions. First one we'll keep it football related. Would you rather get tackled from Myles Garrett or tickle-tigged from Martin Rogers?
I'd say that Miles Garrett's a lot less intimidating. Have you seen Martin? So definitely Miles Garrett. Definitely Miles Garrett.
When we talk about wee midgets that run about daft like earlier in the pod, Martin fits the bracket.
Let's really give midgets a break on here. Right.
Listen, wee Alex could be in this league next year. Come on, guys.
Well, funny you say this, Pollock. Would you rather skydive with wee Alex or Australia with your missus?
Oh, that's a tough one. That's a tough one. But we all know how special an experience a skydive with wee Alex would be. So there's only one winner, isn't there?
I can see you on his back sharing a parachute. What a beautiful
it'd be like the scene for the Titanic.
And we've got to also take this opportunity to wish Alex a happy birthday.
Absolutely. Happy birthday, Alex.
Happy birthday,
the goat.
Alex. He's a
The
keen
goat.
listener.
We'll dedicate this show to Alex. What a guy.
100%.
Wee Alex, man.
He's like a chat legend, a kind
He
of
is.
our draft league legend. For anybody listening, wee Alex isn't actually in our chat. He's not in our league. He came along to our draft night and the boys loved him. So the man, the myth, the legend, this show's for you, Alex.
100%. Kieran, can you put up a wee Just Giving page and we'll just give Alex loads of money? I mean, he doesn't need it and there's no particular gesture, but I just like him. He's just a great guy.
Let's crowdfund this next skydive.
Right, back on track. Pollock, you're the quarterback. You're going to have to throw a Hail Mary. Would you rather throw it to Julio Jones or Odell Beckham Jr.?
Oh, Julio Jones all day. Who's Odell Beckham Jr.? Haven't heard of him.
Thought you might say that.
Done nothing at my team either, mate. Okay, talking draft now. And we're trying to pick people's brains. Me and Shug are trying to put a strategy here, okay? Given the chance and it lands on you, who are you drafting? Would you rather Cooper Kupp or Devontae Adams?
It's a tough question, that. I'm all in the Raiders this year. But just that connection that Stafford has with Kupp, I'm still going to lean with Kupp. I think last year it was just absolutely outstanding. I can't believe he's not a 99 on Madden. I know we'll get into that, but I don't think he's in the 99 club, which is a travesty in my opinion.
He's not. He is actually rated as 98. What more does the guy need to do?
100. Was that not? Did he not have the best regular season record in the NFL ever? Am I wrong in saying that?
I think he did, yeah. I think you are right in what you're saying, yeah.
There's nothing more you can do, in my opinion. And he won the Super Bowl, so
Game-winning catch.
yeah.
Now, speaking of winning prestigious awards, would you rather see me or Toasty win the Fantasy Football League this year?
This depends. If Toasty comes to the draft and makes an appearance, then I'm all in on Toasty. If he doesn't, then the Springfield Isotopes could be in for another victory.
That's if you've not traded your full team to him by then.
Yeah, that's true.
We roll the dice.
Boom or bust, mate.
What are you going to do if someone else takes Tyreek Hill first?
Oh, I'll badger him for a full season. Once, no, I'll turn up at her door.
I think, right, Shug, I think your attitude towards anybody that's got Tyreek Hill in their team completely puts off anybody from drafting him this year.
100%.
He's got a little. He's got a dinosaur-armed fella thrown it to him this year, Tua. So I wouldn't go on him this year, mate. I know Martin will be raging about that because Martin loves Tua, but what does Martin know?
Listen, I'm loyal to my guys.
The cheater.
Cheetah didn't perform towards. He was struggling towards the end of last season, and that's because he just wasn't in my team.
What about the Golden Goose? Alvin Kamara, as you call him.
He could be in. He could be in there. If I can get at least one of them, I'm happy.
I've heard he's also. Is he not also possibly in line for a suspension?
He is actually.
Yep, looking at 6 or 7 games.
There's been a lot of naughty boys this off season, by the way.
I know. See, this is the thing, right? When you're thinking about drafting and you're looking at your draft position and you're working down the leagues, we all watch mock drafts and we'll have one of our own soon enough. But when you look at the New Orleans Saints, you're kind of like, right, will I draft Michael Thomas? Well, will he play? You're like, okay.
If he's not punching guys in training camp.
That's it. Will I draft Alvin Kamara? Well, we could miss the first 6, 7, maybe 8 games. So you're kind of like, who am I drafting? But we'll come on to that. We've got everyone covered.
100%. Last couple of questions then. Would you rather be adopted by Andy Reid or Bill Belichick?
Well, seeing how well Bill Belichick treats his dog, never mind his kids, I'm going to have to go with Bill. Did you see his dog on the draft night? That was amazing, man.
I love that, man.
Honestly, I actually paused that and just stood and watched it because I thought that's just amazing, man. So yeah, I'm going to go with Big Bill, man. Big Bill.
Andy Reid, I can just imagine him letting Christmas dinners and just sits on the couch right after it, watching Royal Family from asleep.
He's got one of the, like the Rudolph mugs where you'd hold the ear as the side of it.
100%. I think if you cut Andy Reid open, it would just be cheeseburgers inside him. What a guy.
He'd bleed gravy.
He's 100% got his Christmas jammies on for like 6 weeks.
Oh, if he was British, he would definitely, favourite food would be Ginster's pie, 100%.
He's a Sam Allardyce of NFL.
100%. Never goes on holiday, doesn't want any foreign muck. And the last question is, would you rather have a coffee or a beer with Tom Brady or Michael Jordan?
Oh, that's easy. That's easy for me. Tom Brady's boring, man. TB12 method, man. And all that. Vegan. Come on. Got to be Michael Jordan. I'm a LeBron guy and I would still say Michael Jordan.
I'm going to completely disagree here. I think, what's the documentary called? The Last Dance. I felt The Last Dance Jordan came across as an arsehole, man.
Nah, I don't think so, Kieran.
Brady. I'm a Brady guy all day.
Brady, I agree with you. Like, you would... Listen, you'd love to spend a bit of time talking to both of them, the experience they've had. But one question, see Michael Jordan, see if you go out with him. There's a chance. Rodman's coming later.
Oh, dearie me.
And then it's all chaos.
Guy's got a cigar built into his wrist electronically. Unbelievable stuff.
We've went from Deshaun Watson to Dennis Rodman. Where is this podcast going?
Listen, we love the bad boys in this podcast.
Yeah, we certainly do. But listen, let's get back on track. And again, sticking with the topic of fantasy football, we've all been kind of looking at this week our picks for who we think is the breakout stars of this season. So guys, we've been looking at the fantasy football, looking at the breakout stars, who are the guys we think can make a big impact this season. Kieran, you want to kick us off?
I'll kick us off. Going alphabetical order, we'll start off with the Arizona Cardinals. Heavily in the news today with Kyler Murray. But when I look at the team and I look at the weapons that he's got round about him, it's kind of like everyone left. Like that Fresh Prince of Bel-Air meme where you see he's standing in the middle of the living room and there's nobody there. But that leaves the door open for someone else to step in, and that man is Rondale Moore. Steady season last season in his rookie year, but I thoroughly expect him to see him kick on. He's got great upside. DeAndre Hopkins is going to be suspended for the first few games of the season. I think it's the first 7, 8 possibly. We now get Christian Kirk at the Dolphins. So Rondale Moore, he's your man there.
Brilliant. Next I went with Chicago Bears. I'm going Cole Kmet. I mean, I don't think that the Bears are going to have that great a season, if I'm being honest. But for me, looking at him tight end, he had 600 yards receiving last year. I think you're going to see progression and improvement from him throughout the year. So he'd be my one to watch for the Chicago Bears.
I'm going with the Baltimore Ravens here. They had one of the freakish training camps last year where just about everyone in their dug got injured. It felt like the season was over for them before it even started, and it obviously got worse when Lamar got injured during the season too. Some of the players in the comebacks from injury come to mind for a breakout selection, the likes of your J.K. Dobbins and Gus Edwards, but I'm going to go with Rashad Bateman. I think he had a very decent rookie year last year, and with a healthy Lamar Jackson, the quarterback, I can only see him getting better.
100% agree with you. Definitely, he's going to be huge there. If they're to do anything, a lot of it's going to centre around him, especially Marquise Brown away. Yeah, 100% agree. But yeah, I'll jump back to the Atlanta Falcons. And it's a man who's actually monitored their social medias again today. We mentioned him in the story and we asked folk who they thought would be the biggest breakout star amongst the rookies. And he won the vote, and it's Drake London. For anyone that doesn't know much about him, he's a wide receiver. He's 6'4", and he's an absolute beast. Now, the Falcons last season, Cardell Patterson put them on his back and carried them. For all they done, it was all around him. In London, he's going to provide some help in there. He was selected 8th overall by the Falcons, which is a big statement. Selecting a wide receiver 8th overall is always a big statement. Historically, first round wide receivers do well in the league. He actually turned out for USC's basketball team, but yeah, he stuck to football, and then he was voted the Offensive Player of the Year for 2021. He's your man, and trust me, we'll go back and we'll watch this when this guy has an absolute rock star of a year.
Next for me, the Denver Broncos. We touched on this guy before, Jerry Jeudy. I think with the addition of Russell Wilson at QB, he's kind of struggled to find consistency his first couple of seasons, but I think that's been partly due to injury. I think it could be a big season for him.
Two great picks there, guys. Drake London, I think, has the coolest name just about ever. And Jerry Jeudy, for me, has always been a bit of a sleeper. So I agree with you there. I'm going to go on the Buffalo Bills. And I think there's only one answer to this question. I think it's pretty unanimous. It's Gabriel Davis. Kieran, you spoke about him previously on the pod, and I'm in agreement with you. I think it's his breakout year.
Yeah, 100% agree with you. I look back to that playoff last year and Diggs kind of slid. Davis stepped in. Is it 5 touchdowns against the Kansas City Chiefs? 4 touchdowns. Unbelievable end to the season, and these are the kind of guys you watch out for as potential sleepers for the next year. His ADP has been drafted quite late, so it might be good to get your hands on him. But we're going to look up to the Green Bay Packers now. Wee bit of an obvious one as well. I'm going with Alan Lazard. If he's not top of the bill here, I don't know who will be. He's literally the easiest selection for this whole thing for me, and there's no reason why he shouldn't be a fantasy god this year. He plays with arguably the best passer in the league in Aaron Rodgers. Devontae Adams is gone. There's no Valdez-Scantling. This is Lazard's year. Trust me, no doubt about it. If he's there to be had in your draft and you get the chance at him, you're going to win points, you're going to win games, and you're going to have a chance at your league. Lazard is going to break out this year.
Hard to disagree with that, Kieran. That's one another one we spoke about last week. For me, Detroit Lions next. It's DJ Clark. I think he's more kind of breaking back into the scene, I would say. I think the move from Jacksonville, I think it's going to be a positive one for him, and I think he should have come back on the scene this year.
On to the Carolina Panthers. Right, hear me out here. I'm going to go with Baker Mayfield. Now, I understand the doubters completely. I don't think he fully lived up to expectations when he was drafted number 1 by the Browns. You can tell they were never fully sold on him. He had a lot of stick for doing so many commercials in the States, and there's a lot of reports about his bad attitude and how he wasn't liked by a lot of people in the locker room. But put all that aside, and this is coming from a Browns fan, I can tell you Baker Mayfield can ball. If it wasn't for Chad Henney's late game heroics in that Chiefs game last January, the Browns would have been one game away from a Super Bowl appearance. So if the Panthers organisation and fans embrace him, I think it could really work out.
Big call.
That is a big call. Who knows?
That's what I'm here to do, boys. That's what I'm here to do. Make big calls.
Love it. Anyway, moving on. Houston Texans. And this is probably the hardest one to pick out of them all because the Houston Texans. So I've went with Davis Mills at quarterback because there's really nobody else. He could offer a glimmer of hope in the dumpster fire that is the Texans. Brandon Cooks is a good weapon round about him. They've also got boomer bust legend Rex Burkhead to bulk up the offense. The man.
Picasaurus Rex.
Everybody's ears perked up when they heard that name.
Right.
But yeah, Davis Mills because there's nobody else really. But I really think it could be a long year for the Houston Texans.
Next up for me is the Colts, and I'm going to go Michael Pittman Jr. Expect him to be wide receiver 1 this year. And with Matt Ryan at QB, I think he'll do all right. I think he'll be one of the standouts in there.
Oh, I 100% agree, and I think I said it in a previous pod. He's going to be a top 5 wide receiver this season in fantasy. Matt Ryan's going to light that flame, and he's going to skyrocket. Michael Pittman should be drafted if he's not drafted by the 6th round, I would be surprised. He's got it in him to be top 5 fantasy wide receiver this season, no doubt about it, mate.
I'm in agreement with you there. I think Pittman should really take off. So, on to the Cincinnati Bengals. Shout out to Toasty on this one. I'm going to go with Tyler Boyd. Every week last season, Toasty would be sending me trades that included Tyler Boyd, and every week I would bat him away. And I'm going to be honest, I was wrong about him. He had a very impressive campaign last year. 67 receptions, 828 yards and 5 touchdowns in the regular season. And I think he's one who might be overlooked by a lot of fantasy players because the Bengals still have the likes of Jamar Chase, Joe Mixon, T. Higgins, etc. So he's definitely a sleeper this year for me.
Consider yourself lucky, Pollock, because Toasty sent me Tom Boyd last year.
He's decent with his hands. Remember that goal against Brazil? Wrong net. Nah, I disagree with you, Pollock. I would have said T. Higgins for the Bengals. Highly touted this year. I think he's going to have his breakout season. He's always there or thereabouts. I know Jamar Chase stole the limelight last year, but for me, T. Higgins, but who knows, it might not be much between them, but yeah, I fancy T. Higgins at the 3 of them. Anyway, I'm not going to argue with you, mate. We're going to move on to the Jacksonville Jaguars, okay? Travis Etienne, and I will die on this hill. Half setback last year, seen him out for the season. He was tipped highly. He's now fit, he's healthy, clean bill of health, and he's about to explode. James Robinson didn't rip up trees last year, and it's 100% Etienne's time to shine. Full PPR, he's a running back, but he's a pass-catching running back. He can also play in a wide receiver role and play in the slot. He's got all the tools to win you games this season. Travis Etienne should be drafted in 100% of leagues.
Next up, I went with the Kansas City Chiefs. McCole Hardman. I'm going with, I think as without Tyreek Hill, this will be his sort of time to shine and sort of make up those numbers. His numbers per catch were really good last year. And now, obviously, he'll see a lot more of the ball. He'll see more opportunities. So I think this is his sort of big year and a Chiefs team that might struggle a little bit.
It's hard to disagree there because I think the Chiefs, for fantasy players, present one of the more interesting and confusing offences. They've drafted Juju Smith-Schuster. Am I right in saying they get Valdez-Scantling as well?
Yep.
McCole Hardman has always been an ever-present in that offence. I think there's a chance he could break out, and I do agree with you there, but it's hard to guess. It really is, but it's going to be interesting.
Great name as well.
Oh, absolutely. If you pronounce it correctly.
I always laugh when I see Travis Etienne's name because obviously Drew, who won our league last year, I'm sure he took him with his first pick and he never played a single game. So that shows you the standard of player in our NFL fantasy league.
Funnily enough, right, he spoke to me about this during the week. It's funny you bring it up. It was his 5th pick, right? And you know what happened? He took him in his, I think it's his watch list, and he says to me, my internet cut out and auto pick clicked in. Took Travis Etienne.
Listen, anyway. he still won the league, so
Still
who's laughing now? Who's laughing now?
Exactly, mate.
You can laugh when you get the ring on your finger.
Oh, shut up.
That's it. That's it.
Who have you got for his next Pollock?
Right, on to my team now, the Dog Pound, the Cleveland Browns. Now, I've got a bit of a bee in a bonnet about this one. I'm going to go with Amari Cooper. Now, I wouldn't consider him as a breakout selection on paper, as he's already a very well-established top 10 wide receiver in the NFL. But since you guys had Martin on a few weeks ago, and you all said that his move to the Browns this off-season would hamper his fantasy value, I'm going to have to completely disagree with all yous on that. And all respect to Jarvis Landry, but I think he's a big upgrade in the wide receiver room and will show out big time for the Dog Pound.
My big issue is you've now said Dog Pound 3 times, you've never barked.
There's a bit...
Kieran, tell the listeners what my song was when we were doing the draft order.
It was Who Let the Dogs Out.
I'm absolutely barking daft.
It's funny, Shug's missed one here because you also mentioned Bill Belichick's dog in the draft as well.
Listen,
this
guys,
guy's dog daft.
Hey, Paul, if you finish last, you have to send in a video to the pod of you. We're doing on all floors acting like a dog, right?
wagging my tail.
Eating out a bowl. Pissing on the couch.
Have you ever seen Phoenix Nights? Keith Lard?
Oh,
That's you, mate. Get caught shacking a dog in the car.
oh God.
I tell you what, this podcast's a long way from getting any kind of sponsorship.
You should never have given me the keys, my man.
No.
I did say at the start, if my predictions are as good as the start of this podcast, then folks should really listen to me.
Shug, see, instead of Saint Phoenix as the intro song, make it The Simpsons.
Unfortunately, he's not getting to keep the castle.
Nah.
I'm in charge of editing rights. Thank God for that. God knows we would start out. Anyway, we digress, boys. I'm going to come to the Las Vegas Raiders here. And it's hard to say because they only made 6 picks overall in the draft and all their senior players are a wee bit more established. But I'm going to go with Zamir White. He could be a sneaky sleeper at running back. Josh Jacobs hasn't really done it the past 2 seasons. Well known for being injury prone and in and out. Kenyon Drake stepped in. He's done well, but I just can't see Kenyon Drake being the RB1 there. So that's why Zamir White for me could be a very sneaky sort of sleeper in there. If he's in the late rounds, he's still around to pick up as a running back. Worth a punt, absolutely.
Next up for me is the Dolphins. One I've been looking forward to, and this one might cause a bit of debate. I'm going with Tua. I think this is his big season. I think he's got a lot of ammunition now with the cheetah and guys like Waddle. I think he's got plenty to aim at, and he needs to have a bit. We spoke about it the other week. He needs to have a big season to make sure he's that that quarterback that they've been looking for. He's up there with the best. This is where he has to break out more than anything.
Hard to disagree. It's make or break for him. He's got the weapons round him. The Dolphins have went and basically gave him everything that he needs to go on and be a top quarterback. It's been promised for so long. His 3rd season in the league. Touched on it already. It's boom or bust time for Tua. Yeah. But yeah, I think he's going to break out. I think he's going to be outstanding.
As well, reading it, I think we kind of touched on it last time. I think his contract situation, I think the Dolphins have pretty much said you have to go and prove yourself this year before you get that big deal.
Yep, that's the way it should be.
100%.
I think, I would agree with you there. Although I would say, I think if Tua isn't delivering by like week 4, you could see Teddy Bridgewater come in. I think that's talk about the best backup in the NFL in my opinion. So he needs to deliver straight away or I think he's out. But moving on, I'm going to go into the Dallas Cowboys, America's team, and it's got to be Tony Pollard for me. He really surprised me last year. I think at times he was the Cowboys' best running back, and that's saying something. He's coming off a career high in rushing attempts and targets. I reckon he's probably a Zeke injury away from superstardom.
A lot of folk won't agree though. A lot of folks still riding the coattail of Zeke. Great running back. He's been a great running back for years. Pollard last season arguably had as good a season as Zeke. So there's no reason he can't break out. I agree with you. I think a lot of people might reach for Pollard and take a risk on him, but it might pay off. I can see it paying off actually. But anyway, from one running back to another, I'm going Los Angeles Rams, and it's Cam Akers. Toyed with the idea of going with Van Jefferson, considering Odell Beckham Jr.'s not there anymore. We're not really sure what the situation is with Robert Woods' injury. Akers, he's got no competition in that backfield. It's always been a sort of bugbear for the Rams. So he's going to step into that RB1, full clean bill of health. He's going to get a high percentage of snaps. I can see him being drafted quite high in the rounds in a lot of fantasy drafts. But yeah, get behind Cam Akers. He's going to win folk a lot of points, especially in the third down situations in the red zone.
Next one for me, New England Patriots. One I kind of struggled with, to be honest with you. But I've went with Ramondre Stevenson. What I went by is sort of positive reports from his spring training, and just to think that the numbers will improve. It would never be one of my first picks in there, but he could have a decent season.
Yeah, I've got to agree. And I'm just a bit sceptical about drafting folk from the New England Patriots. I know I've said this previously, but they just spread it around the field too much for me. Bill Belichick always loves to keep the defence guessing of the opposing teams. He possibly could, but I don't tend to like to draft from the Patriots.
I would agree with you there, Kieran. I can't really think of many fantasy relevant players that I would take from the Patriots. But moving on to the Chargers, similar lines with you, Shug. This was a tough one. The Chargers are pretty established at running back and wide receiver. Austin Eckler, Keenan Allen, Mike Williams. I think they three will see the lion's share of the targets, as they probably should. But Gerald Everett could be one to watch. Jared Cook saw a lot of targets last year from Justin Herbert, so maybe Gerald Everett fills in there. They've got a rookie at running back, Isaiah Spiller. He could be another one to watch out for, as Austin Eckler did have his fair share of injuries last season, but I don't know if there's a standout candidate there. I don't know if you can think of anyone else, guys.
Not for me, no. Like you say, established offence there. Wee bit like the Bengals, where you're not quite sure who's going to get the full share of the targets. But I totally agree with you. That's another tough one. Kind of like I looked over at the Minnesota Vikings. I've went with tight end Irv Smith Jr. All right. Tyler Conklin traded to the Jets. In fact, I don't even know if he was traded. I think he just signed with the Jets, and he'll slot in at tight end 1. And I say that, sorry, Irv Smith Jr. will slot in at tight end 1. He's been steady the past 2 seasons, and he shouldn't have a problem stepping in as number 1 tight end in Minnesota. Pass happy Kirk Cousins, he's firing the gun behind him. Tyler Conklin had a good season at tight end for the Vikings, and there's no reason it can't be the same for Irv Smith Jr. Could be a late draft pick. He could serve as a good backup tight end in most fantasy teams.
Next up for me, another tough one for me, Seattle Seahawks. Now, I've went, again, not one that I'd pick early, but one that could maybe surprise a few people, Kenneth Walker. He led the nation at Michigan State, over 1,000 yards after contact, and I think due to Carson's bad injury and sort of Rashad Penny's injury history, he'll get more a start, more an opportunity.
Yeah, I've got to agree with you. It's one of the ones that you're always looking about for injuries and stuff within fantasy football, for who's the next guy to step up. No reason he can't. No reason Kenneth Walker can't step up and do well at running back for the Seahawks.
Speaking of Tyler Conklin, Kieran, I'm on to his new team, the New York Jets. This was an easy one for me. I'm going to go with Elijah Moore. He showed glimpses of what he can really be in that 6-game stretch towards the end of last season. I was reading earlier that he was averaging 16.1 fantasy points a game during that stretch. I think he could really be the wide receiver 1 for the Jets. The only sticking point may be that crowded offence the Jets now have. They won the draft and free agency, in my opinion, with some great additions at wide receiver and tight end. But if Moore can find that flow with Zach Wilson, I think the sky's the limit.
Yeah, 100%. Remember trying to get him off you last year in fantasy as it came to the tail end of the season, the business end, because he was turning it on big time. I think Moore's going to be... He's got a chance of being a top 10 fantasy wide receiver this season. There's no doubt about it. Looking across, New Orleans Saints, another difficult one, but I've went with Jameis Winston. Now, a lot of he's kind of like Pollock's Baker Mayfield shout, where there's a guy that's quite established in the league and he's been around for a wee while and he's never really broke out, but this season he's going to get his chance. I would have said Chris Olave in there, but with the competition in the backfield, it might hinder his jump into the big time. The flip side of that is Winston has some serious targets round about him. We're quite unsure who'll play and who won't, but this is his chance. Hill's not going to be there. Hill obviously still is there, but I don't see him featuring predominantly at quarterback. Winston's going to get his chance. He might break out.
Doesn't matter how many picks Jameis Winston throws, I still love watching him. I just think he's so entertaining. I think when he's on the money, he's one of the best quarterbacks in the NFL, but he just has that in him, that pick. But he's always been so entertaining to watch, so I'm looking forward to seeing him again this season.
Yeah, it comes across well. You spoke about Hard Knocks earlier. I remember watching him on Hard Knocks when he was at the Bucks, and he just seems so down to earth. They were checking into their team hotel and he was up pestering the woman at the reception to get his points on his card for his stay. I just thought that's like something I'd do, and this guy's like a multi-millionaire quarterback. So yeah, I like Jameis Winston, and good luck. I hope he really does have a good year. Seems a good guy.
Next up for me, it's the Bucks, and I'm going Rashad White. Another one I'm kind of just third round pick from Arizona State. My reason behind that, is he's an excellent catcher, and looking at the state for nets came in just now. He's just the reports that he's come in really overweight into camp.
He's been at Lads Donuts, hasn't he?
100%. He's had a great summer.
Absolutely.
So, bearing in mind his state that he's in, don't get me wrong, the guy will work that off, but to come in that state, I think you're risking. Not only you get that weight off. Now I've never played at that kind of level at any sport, but you lose that kind of weight sharp. You're risking sort of injuries and stuff like that. You're unlikely to be lasting the season. And you just wonder what his attitude's going to be like. I just think Rashad White's going to get more of a chance.
Yeah, I don't think Tom Brady will be too happy, but for me now, it's on to the Pittsburgh Steelers. No longer playing at Heinz Field. The bottle of Tommy K has been removed. So, but my pick's going to be... I'm going to go with Najee Harris, and this is only because I've just seen his Madden rating, and I'm going to have to put him there. He's got a lower rating than Saquon and Josh Jacobs, which, considering what they did last year in comparison to Najee, I thought that was a little harsh. There could be a big chip on his shoulder for him to go one better this year. Plus, I can see the Steelers doing a lot of handoffs to the backs this year, as I don't imagine they want the ball in Mitch Trubisky's hand that often. Chase Claypool as well. I listened to a podcast he done on I Am Athlete earlier this year where he said that he considers himself a top 3 wide receiver in the NFL. I think that's a little bit hasty, but I suppose now's his time to prove it.
Yeah, absolutely. It's hard to disagree there. I think Najee had a great season last season, but I think he could do better as a bell cow running back at the Steelers. There's no reason he can't be. I don't know. Saying that, see when I talk about him, I'm sitting at 9 in our draft overall. Najee might fall to me. I think he might. I think I'm looking at somewhere near the end of the first round. But yeah, I totally agree. This could be his year. Absolutely. Anyway, we move on to my team, the great New York Football Giants. And it's a guy who's filled headlines for the wrong reasons, but he is back in training camp. It's Kadarius Toney. So much promise of him last season. He was drafted in the first round by the New York Giants. Never really set it alight, but I don't think that was personally his fault. The offensive schemes and some of the plays that were ran just didn't really suit him at all. But when he was given the chance, he showed glimpses and flashes of what he can really do. He's a serious weapon for the New York Giants. And the games he did play and the games he did show, he scored high in points. If he's fit, he's a point machine, that's for sure.
Last one I'm going to go on is the Tennessee Titans. I've went with Treylon Burks. I think he's got big shoes to fill in replacing A.J. Brown. Look at his numbers last year. It was 1,104 yards and 66 catches last season. And I think, as I said, going in and being that man that's got to replace AJ, I think he'll get some decent numbers this year again.
And to finish off for myself, it's the San Francisco 49ers. Now, I was going to go with Elijah Mitchell here, but I don't think you could class... Well, I think you could class his breakout year as last year. So I'm going to say Trey Lance. There's a lot of doubts on that, as there is with all rookie quarterbacks, but the 49ers clearly see something as they're willing to part with Jimmy G. In the games that I did see him play, he looked like a nice, dynamic dual threat quarterback. But the time is now. He's in the deep end, so it will be sink or swim in that Kyle Shanahan offense.
Yeah, 100% agree with you. There's a lot of promise, a lot of hype around about him. Quite like you said about with Tua, but could be his year. I quite fancy him to do well. Modern quarterback as well, gets around the field. He'll do good. But moving on, Philadelphia Eagles. Moving from the Giants to the Eagles, it's not very nice, is it? They're not a very nice team. Anyway, got to pick someone, and it's Jalen Smith. Strong rookie season last year, and no reason he can't break out this year. Absolutely not. He's got potential to be the Eagles' wide receiver 1, and his current ADP of 84 suggests he could be a very good mid-draft pickup.
I'm with you all the way there, Kieran. I think he showed some real good glimpses last year. I think at the start of the season, I don't think his connection with Jalen Hurts was that great. I think it was taking time to build. But as the season went on, he definitely got a lot better. I'm interested to see what he'll do this year.
Since we're rolling with an odd number here with the three of us, I've also got the last pick, which is the Washington Commanders. Jahan Dotson for me. He was drafted 16th overall out of Penn State, and he comes with a high profile. There's no reason he can't have a 1,000-yard rookie season. Don't hang around. Get him in the later rounds if he's still there. It could be a very good potential sleeper at the Commanders. Don't know if you guys have heard too much about him, but he is a very, very good player.
Not much I can add really onto that. Don't really look at the Commanders, to be honest.
I'm not going to lie, I've paid no interest in them since they changed their name to the Commanders, so...
Take command.
Well, I'm sure Toasty will be looking at that, scratching his head, wondering what mince we're talking, as he just looks at his spreadsheets and has all the everything worked out for the season. But that's our tips anyway for our breakout stars for each team. Next on, probably a more scientific approach to things. The Madden ratings were out this week. Now, I'll be honest, for various reasons, I'm not much of a gamer, and I don't really take much to notice with these. But Kieran, let's start on you. What's your kind of thoughts? Let's start off with the running backs. Anybody in there that surprised you? Anything there that you think's unjust? Anybody that's hard done by in those kind of top 10?
I'm looking at it now. We've got King Henry number 1. 100% agree with that. Given a chance, if I was higher up the draft in the first round with my pick, it would be Henry. No doubt about it. I know a lot of folk would disagree with that, but number 2 is Nick Chubb, Pollock's man. I don't think he'll disagree with that, but I do. I'm looking down the list here. Number 7, Alvin Kamara, should be so much higher up that list. He's a better player than Nick Chubb. Also, pass catching running back as well. He's shown it the past few years. Maybe not so much last year, but now Kamara should be so much higher up than that. Looking through the list as well, I think Joe Mixon a wee bit harsh at 6. Christian McCaffrey at 3, maybe a bit generous. Would I be right in saying that, considering his injuries the past couple of seasons?
I think so. I mean, if you're just going by raw ability, we touched on that in a previous episode. Yes, he's up there as one of the best, but surely you're taking into account his injuries. Paul, what do you think? Any thoughts on that kind of?
I would tend to agree with Kieran on the Alvin Kamara front. I think that's a bit of disrespect. Even having, Nick Chubb, Jonathan Taylor ahead of Dalvin Cook, who I think's been doing it consistently for a long time. I think I get the respect shown to McCaffrey, still right up there, but it's hard to remember the last time we've seen him. So, but I suppose he's got another year to come back now and prove us all wrong. So, yeah, I think I'm glad to see Austin Eckler in that top 10. I think he's really underrated. I actually think 88's a bit harsh for him.
Moving on, guys. Wide receivers. Looking at the top kind of list, I think the first few sort of speak for themselves. Davante Adams, no doubt one of our first picks in there. The Cheetah is in at 3rd. Cooper Kupp. Any thoughts on the kind of top 10, Paul? Do you think it's been harshly treated there?
I think we said it earlier. Cooper Kupp not be a 99 for me. That's pretty harsh. I don't really know what more he could do. The rest of the list, it looks pretty good. I'm glad to see Justin Jefferson quite high, just behind Stephon Diggs there. I think he's just going to get better and better. I think he's one of the best and could be in that top 3 category next year. I'm glad to see Keenan Allen there, and then another one like Austin Eckler probably doesn't get the respect he deserves, but I've not got as many issues with the wide receiver list as I did with the running back list, if I'm honest.
Yeah. Kieran, you got any thoughts on it?
Yeah, I think I've got an issue with someone that's not in here, and it's Jamar Chase. I just can't get my head around that Amari Cooper and Keenan Allen would be better than Jamar Chase. Maybe even throw Stephon Diggs there, considering the season he had last year. And Jamar Chase balled out. I cannot believe that he's not in the top wide receivers here when I look at these ratings. Justin Jefferson at number 6 as well. I think he's hard done by there. I think Justin Jefferson's top 5. I know that's a wee bit picky, but when I look at the top 5, DeAndre Hopkins, he's done it for years. Had an okay season last year. Stephon Diggs, okay season last year. The past 2 seasons, Justin Jefferson has been flat out outstanding. No reason he won't be like that again this year. But yeah, not too many crimes. I would have Jamar Chase in there, at least top 10.
Madden are known for giving respect to the guys that have done it for a long time. So you talk about DeAndre Hopkins still being in there. I think that's why he's there. And on the Jamar Chase front, they usually wait until the second year to see if they do it again till they get put in that top 10. So I think that's why he might not be in there. But I would agree with you, Kieran. He's another one. What more can you do to break that top 10 than what he done?
So we wait on the quarterbacks coming out. I'm sure we'll discuss that in future pods. But one interesting topic is Myles Garrett, now in the 99 club. Kieran, thoughts on that?
Yeah, 100% agrees. He's done it season after season. Number one pick for the Browns. He is getting better as the years go on. No doubt about it. No doubt about it. 99 club all day for me.
Brilliant. Paul, you agree with that? Deserve that respect?
You know what I'm going to say? 100%. My favourite Browns player, just an absolute freakish athlete, has been exceptional since he joined the Browns, and I was really hoping he would get that 99 rating, so I'm glad.
Well, guys, we've been on for now nearly an hour. Kieran's got to be up all night editing since I've got no idea how to do any of this stuff. So let's wrap it up from there. It's been great having you on, Paul. Thanks a lot for joining us. We'll get you in during the season. We wish you all the best to Fantasy League. I hope you make the playoffs.
It's been an absolute pleasure. As long as I finish ahead of Martin, then I'm good.
And Kieran, how have you enjoyed taking a sort of back seat?
I've absolutely hated it. The amount of rubbish that you guys talk. And like you said, I am going to be up all night editing this. Not just the bits where we made mistakes, but the bits where there's a good chance we'll get banned off iTunes.
This is the PG version of me and Shug just have our own podcast, R-rated.
I'm stunned at the lack of Simpsons quotes, but we'll not go there.
We're professional, Kieran.
We're an hour deep already, and I've got Love Island to catch up on. There's no chance we're getting 5 stars.
You'll be delighted to know Kieran will be taking the keys back next week and back in the QB role.
Yeah, 100%. Nah, I think we'll change it up. We'll swap it about. I think we're quarterback by committee here.
But listen, things are heating up. There's more to talk about. Good to have a bit of fun tonight as the season gets a wee bit closer, but just getting really exciting. Thanks everybody that's listened the last couple of weeks for starting to build up. Share on all the socials, and we look forward to speaking to you next week.